All right, so here we are. We're going to be taking a look at the new collections added for February 2023. The first one being Ambience Doom. It has 59 source files, 160 rendered files, and 332 media items in total across 8 different Reaper projects. So, as an example, I have the interior of a spaceship with a few small rooms, and I'm going to be going over some of the ambience and environment build out that I did using the sounds in the collections. I think it went pretty well. One thing, just sort of an important reminder, is if you haven't installed the IEM plugins, they're going to be needed for this. They are required to process the ambisonic ambience tracks that are included in most of these. So you'll definitely want to make sure, double check that you have those. If not, there is an installation video where I kind of went through and explained what they are. And if you need a little bit more help, you can reference that. All right, so here I am inside of the main project window. As we can see, we have a collection of drones. These are going to make up most of our ambient beds for this particular collection. So we have some generic objects and then also some voice objects that are in here, which kind of just help kind of create some stingers and one shots that you can kind of use to augment these beds and create a pretty immersive ambience. We're going to go ahead and show you some of the examples of the tracks that I used, and then we'll kind of take a little deeper dive. I'm going to go ahead and open up this drone synthetic project here. So one thing that's going to be really important is just to go over generally how these projects actually function. It's pretty different than what you've probably seen up to this point with some of these collections. The first thing we can identify is we have these ambient loop tracks, and each of them have respective layers contained within, which is kind of familiar structure if you've been looking at these strata collections already. So in this case, there's a rumble, swell, and then a shimmer layer contained within these two loops. You also take notice that there's some modulation parameters underneath each one. So you can see that there's these two, distance and quantity here, for example, that are basically controls that are mapped to plugin parameters. So you don't have to open up the plugins and begin tweaking them, manually. So you can quickly iterate on these sounds. So at the bottom, we also have two separate reverb tracks that correspond to each of the loops. And then at the top here, you should be able to see underneath of each of the loop tracks, there are the sends to get out to the reverb, and then some additional controls for the parameters on the rest of that signal chain. So this is basically adjusting your reverb send right there, this parameter. Right beneath this main mix, we can see that everything gets encoded to Ambisonic's third order. And then our main mix actually sends out to each one of these composite tracks individually. So each one of these composite tracks, you can actually just set up so you can mute or solo or, hide whichever ones you don't want to listen to. So by default, we should be listening to the stereo mix. I have the Ambisonics track unmuted because I'm going to be using it inside of Wise. If you're not actively monitoring it, you don't need to assign it to the parent bus. So density is controlling this EQ in a really interesting way. Look how it's adjusting all these bands over here when I pull that knob. So this going like that. So it saves a lot of time for trying to contour and shape these ambiences to what your needs are without having to do all this kind of crazy automation all on your own. So it's one area where this Stratas provides this huge time saving element. So I was very, very quickly able to go into these ambiences and make them more or less exactly what I wanted to. And then we can listen to individual layers. So some rumble, it's probably what I want to keep on the most. So here we have some parameters affecting the Enrage plugin. Just trying to listen and see what that's changing for us. Interesting. So some tonal changes. Let's listen to the swell layer here. Turn that quantity up and maybe bring the distance in a little closer. And the shimmer layer. I do like this, but I kind of, let me push it back a little bit more, make it a little bit more distant. Go in here. Ria surround pan plugin already on there. So you could actually play with this. Granted, you know, I just have it playing back in stereo right now, but you can move these around. Get a sense of where you want to place things. Maybe I want to put this rumble more towards the bottom. I don't know. Let's see about the swell. So all things considered, there's a lot done in these projects to kind of set you up for success. Yeah, very happy with it. All right, let's jump back into the main project. I'm going to go into the objects project, the voice objects specifically. I like how they have these, there's, you know, some amount of content that you could use as stingers to kind of help fill out the ambience a little bit. But it does a good job of not bloating the collection too much. So there's these creature groans, which I just thought would be kind of fun to throw in here and place them behind this bulkhead door. So what's going on here is I'm just using some emitter automation. Kind of move this guy around a little bit. And it's kind of fake that there actually is something behind the door when there's, you know, in fact, there's not. So it's kind of a cool little trick. All right, so let's quickly just take a listen to a few more additional examples. Some more voice objects. And there's some other sort of stinger type things. Cool. Some metal scrapes. I could have put some of those in the scene. They probably would have fit pretty well. It's even like a distant sort of shotgun. All right, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave any comments if you have any questions about anything. If there's anything that you were maybe hoping to see in these collections that wasn't there, or you know, any kind of general impressions about the way this has come out. And I'll leave you with a playthrough of the example that I was able to put together that showcases all these ambiances.